We'll get it balanced out.
Yeah, let's get it balanced out here. Come on. Good enough. Everybody set? Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thursday was a very tragic day in American history with the loss of 13 military service members who were killed in a suicide bomb attack in Afghanistan. Among those brave men and women who were lost was a fellow Ohioan, Navy Corpsman Max Ceviak of Berlin Heights, Erie County. He had enlisted after his graduation from Edison High School in 2017. His family, including 12 brothers and sisters, is remembering him as a wonderful young man, a leader who was loved by his family and by his community. He was proud to serve in the U.S. Navy, and it's our understanding he had planned to make it a career. He wanted to help others. On behalf of all the people of the state of Ohio, we want to send our deepest sympathy to his family, to his parents, Rachel and Kip, to his 12 siblings, and to all who loved him. We pray today for our military members in the region and beyond who are fulfilling their mission in support of the relocation operation. And I think it would be good and fitting this moment to observe a moment of silence for all those who died. Thank you. We also want to take a moment to acknowledge those who have been impacted by Hurricane Ida. We pray for their safety. We thank all who are assisting them, including members of the Ohio Task Force 1, who departed for Louisiana on Friday to provide assistance to the victims of that natural disaster. Further, we thank the Butler County Sheriff's Office's Swift Water Team and the Upper Scioto Water Rescue Team, who have now departed for Louisiana to assist in the rescue operations. Joining me today are Ohio Adjutant General, Major General John Harris, retired Major General Deborah Ashenhurst, Director of the Ohio Department of Veterans Service Affairs, Director Lori Chris of the Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services, Secretary of State Frank LaRose, State Senator Frank Hoagland, and State Representative Haraz Gambari. We are here today to express our deepest sympathy for those lost and to reinforce our support for our military. Specifically, we're here to talk about mental health resources that are available to all our military veterans. Shortly after we started seeing the images of what was going on in Afghanistan, the terrible bombing, we started, I think all of us, thinking about the men and women who were serving over there, and also started really thinking about the men and women who have served our country, the veterans of Afghanistan, the veterans of Iraq. I received a call from Representative Gambari. Senator Hoagland and I exchanged text messages and talked. Secretary LaRose and I talked as well. And of course, the thing those three have in common is they are veterans. And I wanted, frankly, to talk with them and to ask them how best we could help our veterans. They had very specific ideas, and I'm happy that they are here today. On those different phone calls, we decided that it would be a good thing for us to hold a press conference to directly tell our veterans how much we appreciate their service, and also to make sure that all our veterans know about what assistance is available if they are having any challenges through this very difficult period of time in our history. So let me start on behalf of the people of the state of Ohio and address those veterans. First of all, your service matters. Your service mattered. You matter. The people of Ohio, people of this country, are deeply grateful for your service. You went to Afghanistan, you went to Iraq, wherever you served, to carry out a mission. And you did what was requested of you, and you carried out that mission. And I will simply add to that, from my perspective, it is clear that your service on behalf of this country helped keep us safe. You, by going to Afghanistan or going to Iraq, other places in the world, you protected the homeland. You protected all of us. And we will always be extremely grateful for that. Our other message is that it is understandable if this is a tough time for you. None of us who were not in Afghanistan really can appreciate what you went through, nor can we really appreciate exactly how you feel. But we do want you to know that it's okay to ask for help. And one of the purposes of this press conference today is to tell you that, and to also let you know how you can achieve that help. Let me now turn to General Harris, and the others will speak as well. They will outline some of the things that are available to our veterans, and to make sure through the news media that our veterans fully understand exactly what is available to them and what they can do to get help. General Harris.
Thank you, Governor. As you mentioned, sir, our veterans over the last 20 years have made an incredible sacrifice, incredible contribution for the safety of this nation. Ohio's veterans, particularly, have made an incredible sacrifice, an incredible contribution for the security of this nation. And I want those veterans to know, as the governor said, your contributions are not in vain. You did what we asked you to do. Your country asked you to go to Afghanistan and to build trust. We asked you to partner with the Afghan security forces, the Afghan National Police, the Afghan Border Police, the Afghan Army, and you did that. And you gained their trust. You accomplished your mission. We asked you to work with civil institutions, to build them up, and you did that. You flew countless sorties in combat aircraft to provide for the security and the protection of those people on the ground. You flew tankers and you transferred millions of gallons of fuel to keep those fighters aloft, to provide security for those folks on the ground. You did your mission. You built trust. And sometimes, in light of current events, it's understandable that they may create mental, emotional conflict for you. We told you from day one when we issued you a weapon that that weapon was a part of you and that the consequences of losing that weapon could be dire. So it's difficult to see the images now of thousands of weapons left behind or destroyed. It's completely understandable. that you would have emotional or mental conflict right now. But I want you to know that when a person buys breakfast for you because of your service to your country, that is your legacy. You are honored and respected by your country. You did your mission with dignity and with honor. And what you did matters. And your legacy are not the images that you see on the 24-hour news right now. Your legacy is the mission we sent you to accomplish and what you got done and what you did with honor. And carry that with pride. But even sometimes on the tough missions, even the toughest warriors sometimes need to take a knee and get a drink of water. And that applies mentally too. Sometimes the emotional, the mental burden becomes too heavy and we have to take a knee and ask for help. And there is no shame in that. Particularly in light of the current events that we see unfolding, there's no shame in that. And my colleagues now, in just a few moments, are going to outline some of the resources that are available. I encourage you to take advantage of it if you need it. There's absolutely no shame of that, because your legacy will always be one of honor and pride because you did what your nation asked you to do. And nobody knows more about what I'm speaking of right now than the speaker who's about to follow me. Major General retired Debbie Ashenhurst happened to be in Afghanistan when we lost 3 of our warriors. Nick Rosansky, Jeff Rick, Sean Hannon. She was in country when they perished. And she fought the bureaucracy, and she demanded to stay on ground in country until it was time for our warriors to come home. And I'm proud to say I was able to watch my boss at that time, Major General Debbie Ashenhurst, bring our fallen heroes home, and I couldn't be more proud of her. So please take advantage of the resources she's talking about if you need them. She knows of what she speaks. General Ashenhurst?
Thank you, General Harris. Thanks for what you're doing and for the way that you're taking care of this current era of veterans. They need you right now, and you're the right man for the job right now. I appreciate that. So the recent developments in Afghanistan have been difficult for a lot of those who served over there over this last 20 years. An Afghanistan veteran may feel disheartened, angry, frustrated, a whole myriad of emotions. They may be questioning the value of their service and their sacrifice, the sacrifice of their families. They may be mourning again the loss of their brothers and sisters who made the ultimate sacrifice over there. And there's no appropriate or inappropriate way to feel. Our feelings are real, and they are ours. Our participation in this war was to safeguard this nation against the terrorists by reducing their stronghold in places around the world like Afghanistan. You did that. Those efforts were not in vain, and along the way, you made that nation better for the people who lived there, and in particular, the women and girls of Afghanistan. The commitment of our service members there was not in vain. Your service matters. You matter. I know that these events may be triggers of emotions in veterans of all eras of service, and in particular, our veterans of the Vietnam era. So with me here today is Sean McCarthy. Sean's the Assistant Director of the Department of Veterans Services. He's a veteran of Afghanistan and has greatly assisted me and us in forming our outreach and our response, because he was on the ground there, he knows the service members are there, and he knows how they're feeling. I know he's been conflicted with his own feelings and has been upfront about sharing that with us so that we can help figure out what resources are needed to help our veterans. So Sean, I just want to thank you for that and your continued service in that manner.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, we're here today to ensure our veterans and their families know that we appreciate them all for what they've done for our country, and remind them that there are many avenues to healthy ways to deal with our emotions. Feelings of distress like in a time like this is normal. If you or a loved one is feeling overwhelmed right now, that's okay. Please reach out. There are many resources listed on our website, the ohiovets.gov. Our Ohio Cares website, ohiocares.ohio.gov, has been redesigned to be much easier to navigate to find the resources you need. Sometimes it's most helpful, as I'm hearing, to talk with other veterans who get it, who understand where you are. And I know that our veteran service organizations across the state of Ohio is working on that. They're conducting buddy checks, just so that if you need someone to talk to, there's someone on the other end of the phone. We stand here today with Governor DeWine and valued state partners to let you know that we will never discount your service or forget those who have fallen because of this conflict or any other. We always hold our Gold Star families near to our hearts. We hope the resources presented today are helpful and that we are reaching those that need it the most. To our thousands of student veterans out there, we've got your six, especially those who are veterans of the Afghanistan war. Please know that we are here for you. To the veterans of all eras, especially those who served in Vietnam and the ones here today, I thank you much for your input and your concern and your interest in being part of the solution to help us help others get through this difficult time. Your role is invaluable. Remember, your mental health is your health, and there are resources available to you and your families. So thank you so much for being here today. Thank you, Governor DeWine, for understanding the seriousness of these issues. And I'd like to now introduce my teammate, who's making a huge difference in the lives of our veterans and the mental health of our veterans, Lori Chris, the Director of the Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services. Thank you, Lori.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Governor and distinguished members here. Thank you for being here today and your commitment to the health and wellness of Ohioans and those veterans who serve, those who are currently serving, and the family members who have also sacrificed as part of our military community in Ohio. To General Haraz and General Ashenhurst, Secretary LaRose, Senator Hoagland, Representative Gambari, and the veterans who have joined us today, and to all across Ohio, we freely gather here because of your commitment, the honor with which you served, and the sacrifices that you and your families made, and on our behalf, and we are so grateful for that. And I want to echo that your service matters and you matter, and Ohio cares. One way that we as civilians can give back is to ensure that you have access and that your families have access to the services and supports that would be most helpful to you in your wellness right now. We recognize, as has been said, that this situation in Afghanistan is one that's causing conflict within each of us as individuals, potentially, for many of our veterans and family members, and that these negative events can generate a lot of feelings, maybe frustration, anger, helplessness, or a sense of betrayal. It's normal, and for many people, those emotions will pass naturally. But for some Ohioans, you may need additional support. And so we want you to know if you need that support, or if you see that someone you love needs that support, it's okay to ask for help, and there are ways to get help specifically if you're a veteran or a member of our military community. You are not alone, and mental health is health, as General Ashenhurst said. So for any veteran or service member who's feeling in distress or struggling, you can talk to a professional in a confidential conversation anonymously by calling the Veterans Crisis Line, which is 1-800-273-8255 and option 1. When you select option 1, it will transfer your call immediately to counselors who are adept in talking with members of the military service, many of them who have served themselves. And again, those conversations are always confidential. It's a voice on the other end of the line. It's someone to listen and someone to connect you to resources and support if you need it. You can also call the Ohio Care Line, which again is free, confidential, emotional support from trained professionals who can connect you to resources in your local community if you need help. So there's both crisis response or other services and supports available. The Ohio Care Line is also available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and that number is 1-800-720-9616. Additionally, I would urge you to look at the Ohio Cares website. It is updated. There's every single county in Ohio is listed. You can click on it and immediately see what services are available in your local community for veteran services, mental health services, other resources and supports that will be helpful to you and your family. It's ohiocares.ohio.gov. During his administration, Governor DeWine has prioritized funding for crisis services and expanding crisis care in our communities. So these services are available to you now in ways they may not have been in the past. And we know that Ohioans who struggle with mental health and substance use issues need the same kind of emergency support and health care that Ohioans with health care issues do. And we are committed to building this out and responding to you. We are working alongside our companions at the Departments of Veterans Services and the National Guard to connect more consistently and directly with local veterans services organizations. We're building out these relationships to understand what's needed in communities across the state and to support those needs with technical assistance and resources. We want to make sure that the wellness education materials and the resources that any family needs for your veterans or active military are available to you. And we will continue to pursue this relationship with our local community members as a top priority. We're piloting an effort right now to provide $25,000 grants to 8 community organizations who serve veterans across the state. And this allows them to identify and target those specific programs which would be most beneficial to close gaps in services for military families in the state of Ohio. And we're grateful for that work. This funding is being used for things like peer support liaisons, homeless outreach for homeless veterans, support services for survivors of suicide loss, and wellness programs for Purple Star schools. I'm proud today to introduce Adrena Tart, who's a member of our team at the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services. Adrena is a Marine Corps veteran who brings her passion and commitment to Ohio's veterans to work with her every single day. It's important to us to have people who have military experience themselves to be on our team at the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services to liaison with communities and with our partners at the National Guard and Veterans Services. Your experience brings wisdom and perspective to us to help us get the services and supports right. I'd also like to acknowledge Bobby Boyer, who's our Deputy Director for Prevention Services. She's a trusted partner who not only has professional expertise in prevention and health promotion, but also as a military spouse, is really carrying forward that vision of ending suffering from mental health issues, substance use disorders, and problem gambling for Ohio's military families. And so I want to thank Bobby and her husband, Doug, for their service, both in the military and in civilian life. And again, I want to thank all of you for the opportunity to join you today. And I'm honored to introduce Secretary of State Frank LaRose, a decorated combat veteran with more than a decade of service in uniform. He's a U.S. Army Special Forces Green Beret who earned a Bronze Star for this service in Iraq, and who is an ardent advocate for Ohio's and voice for Ohio's veterans. So Secretary LaRose, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Director, and thank you, Governor, for giving me the opportunity to be here today. I want to speak directly to my fellow veterans. Of course, I stand up here as the Ohio Secretary of State, but as was said in my introduction, I served as a combat Green Beret, served in combat as a Green Beret, and continue to serve as a reservist. Of course, right now, our hearts are heavy with the loss of our 12 Marines and, of course, with Corpsman Ceviak from right here in Ohio. And we will continue to mourn their loss and stand with their families as we hold up all of our Gold Star families and those many thousands who have given their life in the service to our country. For those that were lost, their legacy is clear. It's one of honor, commitment, service to our country. But for those of us that came home, many of us bear wounds that can't be seen. You see, as was on full display in the last couple of weeks and really throughout the last 20 years, the men and women of our armed forces are, to our enemies, lethal, but to the innocent, compassionate. That may seem like a contradiction, but it's not. This is the spirit of the American fighting man and woman. To our enemies, we are lethal. To the innocent, we're compassionate. With that, there's a price, though. Just think of the photos that you've seen in the last few days of desperate Afghani mothers handing their babies to American servicemen and women. They knew that that perfect stranger who they were handing their child to, because they were wearing the uniform of this country, was someone trustworthy. They knew that their child would have a better opportunity in the hands of that American than they may have remaining in Afghanistan. That lethality to our enemies and that compassion to the innocent brings with it a price. Some of us struggle with the thought of seeing what has gone down in the last few days. Some of us question, was my service worthwhile? Well, let me be 100% clear with you. Your service was worthwhile. No matter what you did, whether you were a logistician, a support person, one of those trigger squeezers like me, or any job that you did, you answered the call when your nation asked. And your service was worthwhile. And by the way, your results speak for themselves. This nation has been protected from terrorist attack over the last 20 years, in part because of your service. But those wounds that can't be seen need to be tended to, just like any other wound. We know that far too many of our fellow servicemen and women are taking their own lives, and I've heard the number of 22 per day. Absolutely unacceptable. Let me be clear, your family needs you. This state needs you. Our nation needs you. The oath that you took to preserve and protect the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, doesn't end when you take off the uniform. We need you to continue keeping that oath. And of course, your family needs your love and support. And so what that means is that you need to get the help that is out there to get yourself right. Now, there was this old mentality that permeated the military for far too long of, our men and women in uniform are tough. And sometimes they got confused about thinking that toughness meant that they could just take care of it themselves. Well, we've learned better. If you're really tough, if you are a strong man or woman, you'll get the help you need. And there's a lot of help out there. A lot of it comes from your fellow service members. A lot of these organizations that are receiving support through the program that we're talking about today are run by our fellow veterans. And so you can get that support from them. You can get that support by reaching out to your family physician, somebody you served with. Just reach out, because it's the really tough men and tough women that get this situation right so that they can go on living. Because again, our nation needs you, our state needs you, and your families need you. The governor, when we talked about this, asked me what kind of things we can do, and my response was, let's work to support some of these great organizations that are already in existence, and I know that's what's the plan here. These great organizations help people get their lives back together. We know the consequences of not doing that. We saw it far too profoundly. It results in self-medication through drugs and alcohol. It results in broken families. It results in suicide. Don't let that be you. Make sure that you do the truly tough thing, the strong thing, and reach out for the help that you need. And you can get better. And you can get back into life and back into all of the other things that you love. With that, I'm going to introduce a friend of mine. We served in the state Senate together. He served as a Navy SEAL. I served as an Army Green Beret. And so, of course, we had a little rivalry with that, but it was all for fun. We are brothers in arms, and he is somebody who deserves our nation's gratitude because of his many years of service with Naval Special Warfare as a SEAL. He's a combat veteran, and he's also a state senator. Ladies and gentlemen, Frank Hoagland.
Whoa. Sorry, bud.
Good afternoon. I'd like to thank everyone involved with this opportunity, and I must say how humble this is for me and my veteran family. Our nation's freedom has rested on those who borne the battle. This has been a costly price for many, and for some, the debt is just too much to bear. It is the mother, wife, father, son, and daughters that pay this price every day. It is that empty chair at the table, that space that will never be filled. It is the tears that never dry up, the smile that can only be remembered. You see, less than 1% of Americans serve this great nation. These men and women of all backgrounds are once again on our front lines. We are the damn few. We veterans know all too well the sound of taps when it's being played. We know how heavy our heart gets when you stand before the coffin and/or coffins on the back of a C-130, and you know every person that's in those coffins. Our word is our bond. We are the damn few that have stood in the wake of terror and kept it from touching our homes. We did this for the person standing in front of us, to our right, to our left, and the ones behind us. We are the ones that stood on the battlefield that kept this nation free. We never leave anyone behind. It is so important that we, as a nation, a state, a community, participate in helping our veterans and their families during such troubling times. Let us also remember the ones that are currently serving. They are now the damn few. They're the ones that stand their post to keep this country free. They're the ones who allow you to sleep safely at night. I believe it is our responsibility to help our veterans. We Ohioans have seen such successful programs in the past. These are life-saving programs. I have personally heard firsthand stories of just how well these programs have done. I've witnessed my friends and families, I got one standing here today, that can live this life in peace. I know in my heart how instrumental the peer-to-peer program, or what I call the Veteran Helping Veteran program, really works. They are the ones that love this nation more than they love themselves. We must never forget and never leave anyone behind. I pray that our sons and daughters come home safely. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak in support of these resources for our veterans, and look forward to continued efforts from the governor. Thank you, sir. Thank you. General, Director, General, and everybody else for everything that we are doing to try to help our veterans seek that perfect life on this earth today. And before I leave this podium, I'd like to introduce another friend and another veteran, Haraz Gambari.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I want to begin just by acknowledging the members of the press corps and thanking you all for being here today, because it is you that will help share this valuable information with your viewers and your readers. So thank you all for being here today. When we were upstairs just before we came down, retired General Deborah Ashenhurst, who I served with when I was a young Army private, and she was a colonel, came up and said, "Hey, sir, how you doing?" And I said, it's been a tough couple weeks. Tough couple weeks. But I want to tell you all that as we're gathered here today, we have an untold number of men and women that are downrange right now carrying out a mission that each of them willingly took an oath to protect and defend. And it reminds me of a Bible scripture that said, when the question was asked, "Whom shall I send and who will go for us?" each of these brave patriots raised their right hand and said, "Here am I, send me." And Ohio is home to the 6th largest population of veterans in the United States. from World War II to present. And it doesn't matter the age of these veterans, we all share a bond, no matter where we served, when we served, or what we saw. And so it goes back to that peer-to-peer conversation and just that ability to, frankly, just be vulnerable with each other. You know, a lot of people enter our military for a wide variety of reasons. For some of them, it's for family lineage. For some of them, it is an opportunity to earn their way to pay for college. For some of them, they want to earn a special skill that can be transferable. But regardless of what the underlying cause is, it is all about service to a cause greater than their own. And so for me, my father immigrated to this country from Iran in the 1970s. He was a Shah, chief petty officer in the Shah's Navy. And this is a country that has given so much to so many, my own family included. And so when I was 17 years old, I decided that I would enlist, and I enlisted in the Army Guard and deployed to Bosnia, and had been out as a member of the White House press corps traveling overseas with President Bush and Obama and Secretaries of Defense Rumsfeld and Gates. And I decided that I needed to get back in, and I needed to find a way to continue to serve. And so on Christmas Eve of 2010, I touched down in Kandahar, Afghanistan, and I was there for just about 7 months. I left in July of 2011 to come home. And so as we watch the news, as we hear the stories, as we mourn the loss of our brothers and sisters in arms, it's very important to underscore to all of our veterans that may be watching now or hearing about this later, you do matter and your service matters. I mean, to your family, your families have made a very significant sacrifice as well. None of us can serve and do what we do without the support of our family and of our friends. You know, I know my own deployment was tough on my wife, Kim. We had no kids at the time. I got recalled again in 2015 when my son was just a month old and our daughter was just about 2.5. And I'm still serving, and as Frank said earlier, I'm not speaking to you all today as a naval officer that is speaking on behalf of the Department of Defense. I'm speaking to you as a fellow veteran, an Afghanistan veteran, as the chairman of the Armed Services and Veteran Affairs Committee. And I want all of you to know, as the director outlined, some of the resources we have here in Ohio. I was coming off military duty just about a week ago, actually, and I was on the tarmac at Reagan International Airport flying back from the Pentagon. And my legislative aide, Reed Courtney, had sent me a message from a veteran here in Ohio that said, we need to be doing more. And I called him as I was sitting on the tarmac, and I told him, this is not about words, this is about deeds. And we will do more, and we can do more. And my next call was directly to the governor as I was on the tarmac. And then I sent him a follow-up message just to make sure that my first message got through. And then we talked again that night, that Friday evening. I talked to him on the phone, and he said, listen, I'm going to call my cabinet, and we're going to put our minds together, and we're going to find out actionable things that we can be doing to help our men and women in uniform. I also talked to my good friend, Colonel Rick Fambro, the superintendent of the Ohio State Highway Patrol. And I see some troopers here. Trooper Brandon Todd, actually over to my left, served in the United States Marine Corps. And many of our first responders had served as well. And one thing that I told to Colonel Fambro is that although they may be wearing another uniform right now, we still need to pick up the phone and we need to check on them as well, because maybe some of the things that they're experiencing in our society right now with first responders may be triggering some of the sights and the sounds and the smells of war that will never, ever leave you, no matter how old you are. And I'll close out just by, again, talking about veterans of other generations. This morning on my way down, I got a text message from a Marine Vietnam veteran, Dave Evans. And Dave said that he has a flood of memories coming back right now from what he saw and experienced in Vietnam himself, as the flag-draped transfer cases of our men and women come home from overseas, and specifically those brave patriots that gave their lives that just came back to Dover yesterday. He said it brings back a flood of emotions and memories. And I first met Dave Evans probably 7 years ago when we brought the Vietnam Wall to Toledo. And so He told me no matter what your rank is, you could be lieutenant commander now. I'm still going to call you LT because that's how we met. And he texted me and he said, LT, it's bringing back a flood of memories. And I remember speaking with him one day at the VA. He told me his mother had just passed, and he found all the letters that he had written home to his mom and dad in Vietnam, and his sister opened up one of those letters, and it just brought back this flood of emotions. And he told his sister, put them away. I'm going to burn them all. I never want to hear about them again. And I had a conversation with Dave, and I asked Dave, can I have the letters? And he says, LT, what are you going to do with the letters? I said, Dave, I will drive them to Quantico, Virginia, and I will give them to the Marine Corps Archives so that your memories and your experiences can be preserved for generations to come, so that we never forget the sacrifice of you, Dave, and of your comrades in arms. And so as we gather here right now, I want to reiterate, the mission is continuing in Afghanistan. These men and women are still out on the front lines defending the liberties that they took an oath to protect and defend. And they're doing everything they can not only to get our fellow Americans out of harm's way, they're doing what they can to bring home our allies and those Afghans that worked alongside of us and the innocent children that my colleagues spoke about as those Afghans handed their children to those wearing the uniform of the United States service personnel. So I just ask all Ohioans and everyone around the country that you take a moment and you pray for our servicemen and women, that they all come back safe. May God bless our troops at home and overseas. Thank you.